Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome back to Let's Play Civ 6 as Arabia in the Overexplained game. We got to pick up back at Cairo. Now, we do not quite yet have a religion. However, I would like to get my religion up and running, and so I think about now-ish is the time to do it. What I really need to do, however, is get this temple and the what going. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and repair the campus, and I'll also purchase the temple in here. And then next turn, I will probably found my religion, and I'll talk about why next turn. Now, in Lugdunum, what I want to do is talk about this city. Now, this is a city that's off of freshwater and has no way to get freshwater with an aqueduct. I didn't settle this city. I probably wouldn't have settled this city, but it is actually a pretty decent city because it has pretty good yields on its tiles here. You can see there's good food on the marshes and good production on those tiles. So I decided to go for an encampment, partially because encampments give you housing from the barracks and stable, and if you combine the encampment with the campus, you can get a decent amount of housing in the city like this. So we will, of course, be building a campus in here, like so, and we don't mind getting rid of that farm tile, because that farm tile isn't very good in the long run. But I'm not going to be building the campus first. I will, of course, be going for the barracks. That's because this will give the city a little bit of production and a little bit of housing, and will allow it to continue to grow and make use of this massive amount of food that it has. I'm also going to go ahead and put the city on production focus, because we're at our housing limit, and because we're at our housing limit, all surplus food is multiplied by 0.25. We are at the housing limit. We are 4 out of 4. So that means every piece of food above 8 that we work is 1/4 as efficient as it should be. So that means, you know, this 7 positive food is actually kind of terrible. So we would much rather work other things like production. I'll also improve the camp. I don't remember if I already have a camp, but extra luxuries are always nice. And we'll go ahead and start getting all of this area improved. I'm still cranking out a ton of builders because I need to start actually improving my territory now that I have really efficient builders. And I'm also going to be doing stuff like improving these fishing tiles to help this city grow as well. I think there'll also be a lumber mill in Araka as well, right there. That'll give me a really good productive tile. But mostly in the city, I'm looking for a mixture of food and production at this moment in time. Brilliant. So we are now in the Renaissance era. We get a little bit of score. We just unlocked exploration. Let's go ahead and plug in Merchant Republic, which is our new type of government. We're going to put both of our economic cards up here. These are the cards that we want. We also want to keep veterancy because we are building those. I'm also going to plug in Inquisition here. And the reason I'm plugging in Inquisition is because I can start an Inquisition with 1 apostle charge, which means I don't have to use my entire apostle to start getting Inquisitors. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means for me in a moment. We have campus adjacency. We have newly trained builders. In terms of what else we could place, I could go for science and culture from international trade routes. I could go for merchant confederation. What I'll do really quick is we also have another aid request, or rather that aid request finished. And because I put 1 single point of gold and 2 people were negative, I get the bronze reward, which means I get a 50 diplomatic favor for essentially 1 gold, which is an incredible conversion of value. If we look at our trade routes, we're mostly trading internationally, which means I do think Trade Confederation could be pretty valuable here, alongside Inquisition. In terms of merchant, I think I will plug in Merchant Confederation for the extra little bit of gold. I do have a decent number of envoys in the game right now. Probably a good idea to look at the missions here. So they want me to send a trade route. Buenos Aires is like all the way over here, so I'm never getting a trade route to them, so I don't need to worry about that. Let's see, who else? Fez wants me to recruit a great merchant. That could possibly happen, but not for a very long time. Antioch wants a trade route. They're actually pretty close, so I could send them a trade route. And Muscat wants a great rider. Probably might be able to get a great rider this game in Ostia. And so you get +1 gold for each of your envoys at your city-state, so that's pretty good. I think it's time to found the religion. We're going to go ahead and found. In terms of civics, before I just quickly found my religion, I will be, of course, picking up, now that I have exploration, my next goal is to pick up things like spies. Spies are like trade routes. You can see here, grants the ability to construct a spy. Spies are like trade routes. They are empire-wide, limited, extremely powerful infrastructure that you want to get access to as soon as possible. And it also opens up some other diplomatic options, as well as the Wisselbanken promotion or policy that allowed me to get food and production from trading with my allies. In my capital, I'll of course just continuing to repair, and I just finished audience chambers in Damascus, which means now I want to get quite a good few of these guys improved, so we'll be working on that over the next few turns. I'm going to go ahead and appoint Moksha and plant him into Damietta. That'll give this city some housing and amenities, and I'll just kind of plop him there for now. I also want to get my intelligence agency, and the reason why I want to get my intelligence agency over any of the other choices is the foreign ministry will allow me to leverage city-states for half the gold and give my city-state units plus extra combat strength. I don't plan to do any militaristic stuff or any stuff involving city-states, so that's not an option for me. The Grand Master's Chapel gives you the ability to buy land units with faith. I have other plans for my faith, and it also gives you pillaging, faith from pillaging, which is really nice, don't get me wrong. However, I don't plan to go to war and I don't plan to do any pillaging, so I feel like intelligence agency is the best choice for me by default. Now is the time to found our religion. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reassign Moksha down to Ostia, and the reason why I'm going to do that is because Ostia already has a holy site, and I will just plant Victor into Arretium. And the reason why I'm doing that is because the city already has a holy site. Now that I'm founding a religion, this city will automatically convert to my religion. So that's something that's really important. I could have been building holy sites all throughout my empire, and the second that I found my religion, all of my cities will automatically convert. But I was going to plant Moksha in here because his ability is that religious pressure from two adjacent cities is 100% stronger from this city. So he'll give me a little bit of extra early pressure. Not a huge amount, but still a decent amount. Now I get to choose my religion. I'm going to, of course, be going for Yeetism because we're going to be yeeting units into volcanoes. Because we got a very late religion, there's not a whole lot of really good choices left. Work ethic isn't bad, it's actually probably one of the better choices. However, we don't need our holy sites to give us production. It is a pretty damn good one, but I think I would kind of prefer Jesuit education because it allows me to catapult my science even more and use my faith for that purpose. In this current situation, I do think it's kind of between Jesuit education and work ethic, but I'm going to fall on the side of Jesuit education so that we have something to spend our faith on, because as Arabia, we generally speaking want to be spending our faith on infrastructure if at all possible. Then, in terms of picking our next belief, because we're playing Arabia, we actually really badly want to get one of these faith buildings, right? We want to get either the cathedral, the mosque, or the pagoda, or the stupa. Ideally, we would get one of the other ones. However, I feel like in terms of the value that is provided, we don't need room for religious art, we don't need extra apostles and missionary spread, we don't need extra amenities, and we don't need extra faith. So Pagoda giving us that +1 diplomatic favor per turn really works well for us here, because that +1 diplomatic favor is basically a resource that we can trade to the AI. Now that I have the temple in here, and I also have a shrine, and I have my faith building, I can come in here and buy a Pagoda for 35 faith. Now this gives me 3 faith per turn, as well as plus 10% science, faith, and culture in this city. So this is a huge return on investment. I'm just going to go ahead and purchase that, and you'll see the city's culture has jumped up. It's now getting 10%, 1.7 culture per turn. It's also getting 2.8 science per turn, and another 1.6 faith per turn. And that's going to continue to scale throughout the game. So that's just really valuable stuff. That single investment now, at this stage of the game, now that I have my pagodas, investing in holy sites becomes an extremely valuable thing for me to do. It becomes a very high return on investment activity. So it's something that I'm going to be trying to do a lot more of. Now that we're also a little bit deeper into the game, I am going to be cutting just a little bit of the footage. I'm not going to be talking about every single little decision, like where to place my improvements and stuff like that. We're going to be just like speeding up the game a little bit. And, you know, I think I'm going to try to get my own deal for the furs, so I'm going to try to trade that myself. I should also be looking at diplomacy, see if I can get friendships and alliances with people. So I'll just go ahead and talk to you and see if I can declare friendship, and see if I can declare friendship with Georgia as well, and declare friendship with Eleanor. And again, I'm going to go through the AI and see if I can get open borders with everyone who I don't currently have open borders with. One other thing is, since I founded my religion, I can now go ahead and purchase faith units. Now, ideally, I would maybe faith purchase buildings and stuff like that, but I don't have a huge amount of options for that at the moment. So what I want to do is I want to faith purchase an apostle. This will allow me to start an inquisition, which will allow me to faith purchase really efficient units that are good for clearing out enemy religions from your cities. Also, I really want to point out this +4 adjacency campus now, because I built the aqueduct, the holy site, the city center, and the harbor around it alongside the reef. It's now +4, and because that's getting doubled, I'm getting 8 faith from my madrasas, which is incredible. So you actually don't need that many holy sites to get a lot of faith as Arabia. Talking about Medina, we have our harbor, we have our lighthouse, so we have all the basic infrastructure in here. The thing that I would maybe consider is getting a couple of mines in here to really help the city build out, and also to maybe improve some of these fishing tiles to help the city continue to grow. Because growth is going to be the way that we sort of build this city up. And I definitely think there's a really good industrial zone right here. The city doesn't really have a whole lot of good options, but I think a little industrial zone planted right there will give this city a really good production line and allow it to sort of help me out in a lot of different ways. We're still getting the 100% production towards buildings in the district applied to the city center. So anywhere where production comes available, where I can build these sorts of things, I'm just gonna have to do that, or I'm going to want to do that rather. I'm gonna want to build my granaries and monuments, and perhaps even my ancient walls wherever possible and applicable. Ostia is a bit of a city with a production problem, and I kind of want to talk about this a little bit. I'm going to have to wait until I have mercantilism, which is not too far away, but I'm going to need mercantilism to put the lumber mills here on these tiles before I'll be able to really do anything interesting in this city, because otherwise it's just going to have to wait for housing. And so probably my best bet in this city is to just work theater square festivals and then use gold to improve this, or perhaps even just work an amphitheater, because it is a +6 culture amphitheater, and it'll take 29 turns, but I would rather purchase the temple and then faith purchase the pagoda in here, which is probably what I'm going to do when I save up my money. Speaking of money, I need to go ahead and sell my furs. Eleanor gives me the best deal for this. She will give me 11 gold per turn for 1 furs, which is really, really good. She also pays incredibly well for diplomatic favor, so I'm going to see if I can take what little of her cash that she has left. 37 diplo favor for 159 gold and 12 gold per turn, so that's me kind of tearing her economy down again. The rest of my diplo favor I'm going to give to Dido in exchange for immediate gold, so that'll allow me to actually purchase my temple. Now that I got a big chunk of gold from Dido, I can come into Ostia. I'll go ahead and purchase the temple, and immediately faith purchase the pagoda, which will give me another diplomatic favor point per turn, as well as all the boosts to culture, science, and faith in this city, giving me a healthy 42 faith per turn, also known as the answer to life, the universe, and everything. My plan is currently to get an industrial zone in this city at some point in the near future, and I'm also just going to build a ring of mines all the way around through here to give the city a bunch of productive tiles. And I think I'm going to make sure that I prioritize productive tiles in this city over any other kind of tiles. These coastal tiles are really, really nice, but production is king. I want to go ahead and chop out this builder. I could alternatively chop out the intelligence agency, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and swap this tile right here. And what this will do is it will use 1 build charge to get me 5 more build charges. So that's kind of an efficient exchange. I'll then come in here and I'll place that industrial zone, and I'll get that industrial zone building, because this will eventually be a linchpin of my economy. And so you can kind of think of shipyards as coastal industrial zones, and industrial zones and commercial hubs as the things that you want to build inland. So coastal cities actually require a little bit less infrastructure to actually get them up and running, in terms of how well you wanted to get them up and running, because they just require shipyards, whereas these inland cities, they kind of require an industrial zone every now and again, and then each one also requires a commercial hub. It's about time that I grabbed Liang and reassigned her to the capital, although I will wait until this last builder is finished, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But importantly, I am slowly losing my religion in here, which is far from ideal. But I can go ahead and start a inquisition with this apostle without fully using up this apostle, which means I can now faith purchase inquisitors who are really, really effective at sort of clearing out enemy religion. Again, this is another small little bit of a macro thing, is if you have a forest on a luxury tile, you cannot put a lumber mill there, so it is almost always better to chop it and get immediate infrastructure, like for example the barracks, and then to work on something else like the armory, and then go for the campus. And the reason why I'm going for the armory is for the extra little bit of great people points in terms of great generals. It's probably never going to get me a great general, but it might make them cheap enough for me to purchase one if I so need one in the future. And it'll also provide the city with more production, making it into a useful city. And, the housing problem in here, by the way, when you're 1 population away from your housing limit, the multiplier is 0.5, so it's a little bit less harsh, but even so. I have another whales to trade. Let's go ahead and talk to Dido. Maybe you want to buy my whales? 2 gold per turn, that's not nearly enough. What about Eleanor? You're already broke, so not much I can do for you. 9 gold per turn from Pachacuti for my whales. I actually have 3 copies of whales to sell, which is kind of insane. I'm kind of surprised nobody has been trying to buy them off me. Persia will pay 10 gold per turn up for them, which is great. I'm going to give some whales as a gift to Rome to see if that will kind of make them a little bit friendlier with me. I'm trying to make them friendly because it would be nice to have Rome as an ally, as weird as it sounds. Hey, we circumnavigated the globe, getting us +5 era score. That is this little lad over here exploring for me. So in terms of planning this city pretty much just wants to get a holy site on top of this other stuff. And the best place for the holy site is probably on this little bit of rainforest right here. So I'll go ahead and get ready to harvest that, because by harvesting this, it'll also, when you harvest rainforest, you give the city food. So by harvesting this, the city will get a little bit more food. I'll get the 7 population. I'll be able to place all my districts down, and then the city can just power hard and build up infrastructure. And then I'll plant down things like mines and lumber mills and stuff like that in here. Again, I'm just continuously selling even more luxuries. I'm basically looking through the list, seeing who has luxuries, who has money, and selling them to them. Like Pachacuti could use some rice. Rice isn't that rare, so people don't pay that much for it, but I should still get a good price for some of these things. And that's why, like, it's turn 141, and I'm making about 270 gold per turn from trade deals, which, you know, after expenses makes out about 221 gold. Looks like another natural disaster has happened. If I'm going to win this one, I want to win it. If I'm going to contribute, I want to just put in... If I don't want to contribute, I need to put in 0. So I'll have to make a decision there. In terms of Dido's targeted one, let's take a moment to look at the diplomatic victory screen, because there's a lot of these going on. And it looks like Eleanor's kind of... I wouldn't say running away with it, but she has a bit more than she should probably have. So it might be worthwhile for me to spend my money in that direction. I definitely want another trade route, however. Looks like Cairo is fully repaired and built, so we'll go ahead and pick up the lighthouse. This will give me another trade route, it'll give me another bit of housing, and it'll give me another bit of food on these coastal tiles. And since my apostle picked up the orator promotion, I can run around. Oh, I can actually evangelize. Oh, that would be cool. Let's do that. Let's evangelize. Because now I can start making some other decisions. Like I could go for cross-cultural dialogue. I could go for world church to get a little bit of extra culture. I could get religious unity if I wanted to get more control of city-states. These are all actually very interesting choices. I think I can take care of my gold problems by trading with the AI. So I'd be much more interested in maybe picking up science and culture. And since I already have like an incredibly strong science game going already, like if I go ahead and click on Cairo and I look at my buildings, like look at my library, I'm getting 8 science from my libraries. That is 4 times more science from a library than you normally get from a library. And that's because I have friendships with a lot of these city-states. And that'll only get better as the game goes on, as I fill out Fez, and I also start doing some other multiplier kind of stuff. So I think the thing that I would maybe struggle on this game is actually a little bit of culture. And I think that is my best move here. I could go the envoy route as well, but that would require me to spend my faith to actually spread my religion, which is maybe something that I don't really want to do. Whereas just getting World Church means an extra little bit of culture from basically doing nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in World Church, and then I'll maybe look at evangelizing the last belief later on in the game. So the city is 6 population, 10 turns until the industrial zone. We harvest here. It's now 7 population and 5 turns in the industrial zone. And we can also place a holy site here that will eventually become a +2 holy site, which isn't amazing, but it will do the trick. And now we have all of the infrastructure in here actually placed, right? Everything that we ever want to build in Arretium is actually placed on the ground. Anything after that is just excess stuff that we don't need to worry about. So that's really, really powerful. Also, I think it would be a good idea to go ahead and swap one of these marsh tiles to Arretium, because that's actually a 3 food, 2 production tile, which is great for this city. So what that means is we don't need any more infrastructure in here. We just have to build it all. I think there is an okay farm triangle in Lugdunum as well. And I do think maybe there would be a good spot for a holy site and maybe another district later on in here too, to try to get the adjacency of this campus up. But I may as well just go ahead and repair that farm, put a farm triangle in here, and then wait for lumber mills to improve these jungle tiles. Although I might remove 2 of these jungle tiles. Although the other thing that I could do is I could use my soothsayer to burn these down once and get a little bit of extra yields on them. So I think I will go ahead and do that. I already have a soothsayer, so I may as well use him for his purpose. I now have enough faith to go ahead and purchase an Inquisitor, which I will of course be doing, and then I'll be able to start spreading, unspreading the enemy religion. Just got a library in Damietta, which is fantastic. We can get to work on the madrasa. This city's production is a little bit weak, even with this nice Pantheon giving it a boost. But I'm okay with that. I'm also going to slap down a bunch of farms in here. And partially that's so that this city will like skyrocket in growth. It'll grow really, really fast. But all of these farm adjacencies, see I'm getting 6 food, 3 production from these farms, which is fantastic. I would say 2 food per citizen is again the sort of minimum that you want. So this city isn't doing amazingly on production. So I would probably want to figure out how to get a little bit more production in here. And it's almost certainly going to involve getting this niter tile online. So I'll go ahead and purchase that so that I can do that. And I may as well work on the madrasa here slowly because that's worth faith and science, which are hugely important to me. Although I could... Oh no, I need to have my religion in here in order to faith purchase. Actually, you're right. So I will have to go ahead and just build madrasas. Again, another library in Halab. This is a +8 science library. I'm going to go ahead and promote Liang with the reinforced materials, which will prevent environmental effects from damaging my cities. And then I'll go ahead and reassign her to my capital. And then Magnus can probably find somewhere that has some chops. Like, for example, I could do Lugdunum and just chop all of this rainforest out. Although I might just chop out 2 of the rainforest, so I'll go ahead and pop him into Lugdunum, because there are a few chops over here that I might take advantage of. The reason why I put Liang in my capital with that reinforced materials is because there's a lot of tiles now in the capital that can be pillaged by this volcano, and I want to keep that infrastructure. So in 4 turns, that infrastructure will be essentially permanently locked in and permanently protected from any negative consequences. Pop down a pair of lumber mills in Iridium. Give this city an amazing ability to produce. It's up to 18 production on 7 population, which is fantastic. And we'll also pop down a niter mine in Damietta, giving the city a really strong production tile, bringing its production up slightly above 2 per population, which will bring down the number of turns to build these things pretty quickly. I think the big thing for me to do here, I know I was talking about other stuff that I could do with my gold, but I think the big thing here is to save my gold to actually purchase shipyards. And now that I've already done the Inquisition thing, the next time I can change out my government, which I probably should do now, is to actually take a moment here and go for naval tradition. When I can switch out my government there, I will plug in the harbor adjacency card instead of this Inquisition, which is hurting my science. I don't mind hurting my science in the very short term, but in the long run, I am going to have to deal with that. Let's go ahead and continue to spread yeetism. So a single conversion with an Inquisitor basically eliminated the enemy religion in here. And we're going to be sending these guys out and then maybe following up with a missionary or 2 to actually do the spreading. Let's chop out our library in Mecca. That'll just bring that down to a single turn build, and that's worth 8 science again because I have so many good relationships with city-states. It also would maybe be good for me to think about how I want to spend my envoy points and how I want to get more of these. I do have to kind of wait until the next era before I get new missions, though. Oh, one thing I wanted to do, actually, was I definitely wanted to get a trader and trade with one of these city-states that had a mission to be traded with. So there's shipyards. We'll talk about that in a moment. But we will go in here. We'll go ahead and purchase a trader. This trader will be trading with, I think, it was maybe Antioch? Yeah, I think it was Antioch that I wanted to trade with. So I'll trade with Antioch to get an envoy in there. That'll give me 2 gold for every market and lighthouse. I'll come up to Cairo. And what I want to get in here is actually this shipyard building. And the reason I want to get the shipyard, as you can see here, it gives you +3 production and +1 food. So it is really good. And it also gives you +1 production in all unimproved coast and lake tiles for this city. So that means it would make all of these coastal tiles really powerful. Now that we have mass production, I think our next objective is to go ahead and pick up industrialization, because this will give me access to the factory, which is like empire-wide production, as well as the coal power plant and coal, which is like single city production. So it allows me to sort of start to ramp up the production of my empire. It'll also give me +1 production on mines, which is a great way to turn science into production, which I can then turn that production into science. So it's kind of a feedback loop. By getting extra science, I get more production, and by getting extra production, I get more science because I can build more buildings. I also think it's worth it to pop down a farm triangle in Arretium. The city has decent growth in housing, but I think a farm triangle would be very nice in terms of getting this city to be able to grow really quickly. I love it when tiles have burnt down due to forest fires, because look at these yields here. This is going to be a 3 food, 5 production tile, which is incredible. What do you do when you have enough faith for an Inquisitor? That's right, you buy another one. I need to eliminate this religion from all of my cities. I need to start getting my own religion spreading. Eliminate in Iraqqa, and now Iraqqa follows my religion of Yeetism. Isaac Newton is a pretty good great scientist. If I take a look at the recruit progress, Inca is pretty close to getting the next one. So I would want to make sure that the next great scientist that I'm getting isn't very good. But I think Isaac Newton is actually a perfectly good great scientist. And the reason for that is because he allows your science infrastructure to be more valuable. Because what he does is he instantly builds a university and a library in this district and gives universities +2 science. So wherever I'm close to building a campus, this guy would be great to place down. I think I'm going to hold on to him for a little while though, because there's nowhere that I'm really getting ready to build a campus, except for maybe in Arretium, which I think is probably the best place for me to start building a campus in. So I'll teleport Isaac Newton down here, and in 10 turns, I'll be able to instantaneously build a library and a campus. Now the question that remains in my capital is, what do I want to do with my capital right now? I could build the shipyard, I could go ahead and wait and purchase the shipyard next turn, or I could go ahead and maybe start building some of these wonders. For example, I could get the Anchor Wat. The Anchor Wat is really nice. It gives you +2 faith, as well as +1 population in all cities and +1 housing in all cities. I have all my cities settled, so getting a little bit of extra population and housing is actually pretty damn good. It doesn't help you feed those things, however. The other thing I could go for is the Colossus to get another trade route. That's pretty good. However, a 15-turn investment for a single trade route doesn't seem that great. I mean, 3 gold, an admiral point, and a trade route is pretty damn good return on investment. However, I feel like the shipyard would be the best thing for me to do here. I want to make sure that I'm working production ideally so that I can maximize, the production of this city. Yeah, I have to make a hard decision here. Do I want to go for campus research grants, or do I want to build some units do I want to go for the shipyard or do I want to just purchase the shipyard? I think 8 turns to build a shipyard is a pretty good amount of time. I would say anything 10 turns or under, usually you would build the shipyard, and anything over 10 turns you want to purchase it because the time to return on investment is just too high there. That would be kind of my take for shipyards. Shipyards are just really, really good, so you don't want to spend too long building them. Question here is, do I want to repeat my trade route? I'm going to go ahead and organize by gold. But I should also actually look for city-states like Antioch. So I'm going to trade with Antioch. That'll give me an envoy with them, as well as a little bit of culture, science, and gold. I'm going to trade with Rapa Nui here as well. Although I could trade my capital for extra religious pressure. I think I'm going to trade with Rapa Nui. And this is to get a trading post here, which will eventually lead to a trade route with Sausa. So we'll just do that right now. It looks like a spy is in my capital stealing tech, so maybe one of my spies will want to be defensive to keep them from, stealing from me too much. Looks like my friendship with Cyrus has run its course. Let's go ahead and renew that friendship. You always want to keep an eye out for when those things are ending, because it's usually about when your open borders are ending too. Lighthouse completed in Mecca. Now it's going to take 25 turns to build a shipyard and 28 turns to build a madrasa. So this is like the perfect candidate to purchase both of these things. Ideally the madrasa with faith and the shipyard with production, or with gold rather. So I'm going to purchase the shipyard in here to give the city an extra 4 production. So we basically just increase the production of the city by 50%. And then when I refresh it again, because it's working some of these coastal tiles, they become 2 food, 1 production, 1 gold. So here's the really important thing. If we look at a grassland tile, it's 2 food. If we look at a plains tile, it's 1 food, 1 production. If we look at a grassland hill, an unimproved grassland hill, if I can find one, is 2 food, 1 production. So that basically makes, with the combination of the shipyard and the lighthouse in your coastal cities, it makes every single coastal tile into a grassland hill with an extra piece of gold. And that's really damn good, especially if like the alternative to working this tile is working this 0 profit tile, right? These 2 food tiles, or maybe this hill right here. So these just become better, unimproved tiles. And that's why I really like the shipyard lighthouse combo, because it gives cities with really bad land the ability to actually maybe do something, and it can often increase the production of these coastal cities by 50 to 100%. Holy site completed in Halab. I'm going to go ahead and grab the shipyard because that eventually leads to me getting even more production, and then we'll get to work on the madrasa. I think a holy site is due in here as well. Now, if I were to pop a holy site, let's see, this one has, if I popped a holy site right here on this grassland hill, it would actually increase the adjacency of this campus to +3 and the adjacency of this holy site to +2. So that would be like a double whack, I think, right there. So I think if I am going to build a holy site, it's going to be on this tile. It does kind of take a productive tile away from the capital, but I'm not too worried about that at this juncture in the game. So I'll go ahead and swap that tile. I'll place that holy site. Actually, do I need that right now? I actually don't need to do that just yet, although it would be nice to lock in the productivity cost of that district, so I'll do it right now. Again, anything under 10 turns you generally want to build because you can just use your gold more efficiently elsewhere. I have 2 envoys in the bank. Thinking about Fez. Thinking about, I could pop this into Bologna and get +2. Or Bologna and get +2 in all of my universities, or I could put 2 into Fez and get +2 in all my libraries. And I think the +2 in all libraries is a bit better here at this point in the game, because that'll jump my science up quite a chunk. We also want to come in here, we want to get rid of Inquisition, and we want to plug in naval infrastructure. This will give me 100% harbor adjacency on all of my harbors, which I cannot stress is so damn good. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in, confirm. And what this means now is a city like Mecca, instead of getting like the 14 production, it's now getting 18 production, right? Because if we come in here and we look at the shipyard is giving me 8 production, okay? When are you ever going to get 8 production from a building? From just a little bit of infrastructure and a single card. That is incredible, right? So that's why I like to go for these shipyards in my cities on the coast, and why I'm really a big fan of coastal games is because it allows your cities to have really high production in situations where they probably shouldn't have high production. It allows you to create production from thin air, where normally you would really struggle. Here's another little bit of analysis. This city is going to struggle for growth a little bit in this game, like no word of a lie. However, here's the thing. Deer tiles are kind of ass. Not like donkeys, but like they're just kind of not very good because you can't build lumber mills on them. But deer forest tiles are great because you can harvest the deer, finish a building really quickly, and then put a lumber mill on it later. So this is like win-win, right? I get the chop and I get to put a lumber mill on this. This is like a double win. We have enough faith for another Inquisitor. It's not really super important that I'm pointing this out, but I just want to keep pointing out when I'm buying Inquisitors, because one of my goals is to get my religion established now. We finished the harbour in Araka. Let's go ahead and work on the lighthouse. And it's okay to delay our campuses, right? We're still making really good science. The only person who's ahead of us is Hungary. And sure, he has nearly double our science, but like, it's Hungary. What is he going to do? Important thing to note about farm triangles. Okay, so let's talk about farm triangles. So normally, when you build a farm, right? If I go in here, I go to the farm. Normally, when you place a farm, you turn a tile, typically speaking, from being a 0 profit tile, i.e. it has 2 yields of food and production, into being a 1 profit tile. Okay, so it basically makes the tile actually workable. That's what a farm does. A farm makes a flatland tile workable. However, it's often the opportunity cost that doesn't make farms worth building. However, there's an exception to this. Once you unlock the feudalism civic, this allows your farms to get +1 extra food for every 2 adjacent farm improvements. So if you build a triangle of farms, right, a farm here, a farm here, and a farm here, all of your farms will actually give you +2 food. Now that actually, again, remember, that means it doubles the value of your farm tiles. Because instead of providing +1 profit by placing down the farm, you're getting +2 profit. So instead of going from a 0, you're going from instead of going from a 0 profit to a 1 profit, you're going from a 0 profit to a 2 profit. So it doubles the return on investment here. And the important thing is, it doubles the return on investment in 3 tiles to do this. So this now becomes a really strong like muscle of growth for this city to justify working any low food, high production tiles that might be around. And the other thing to note is that population in this game actually gives you a little bit of science. You can see here, because I have 8 I have 8 population, which means I'm getting about 4 science from my population and about 2.3 culture from my population. So actually growing a little bit of population is a pretty good idea too, because it allows you to build more districts. It has a lot of benefits in the long term of the game. I'm going to do something a little bit unorthodox. I'm going to go ahead and burn down my own forests. This will kill some population in the city of Lugdunum, and it will make these tiles unworkable for quite a while. However, after the forest fire is done, these tiles will have extremely high yields. I'm going to try to force through 100% production towards the campus buildings or even harbors. If I can get 100% towards harbors, that would mean I wouldn't need to use my gold to build my shipyards, which means I would be in a very good spot. And I always go ahead and vote for ranged, because the AI tends to vote for ranged because everyone has range units, so it sort of becomes a bit of a default choice. It's not always what happens, but it's kind of usually I find everyone votes for ranged. And looks like I was able to force through the 100% production towards buildings in the harbour. And what this means is I'm not giving the AI any benefits to be able to build their campuses faster. And since I know how to get return on investment from doing a harbour-based play, I now have this entire era to not have to actually gold purchase my harbour buildings, and I'll be able to build them relatively quickly. I will gold purchase some of them, but not a lot. And in fact, the return on investment from this shipyard, now that it's 8 production, I'm actually going to switch away from the madrasa in here. That shipyard, 7 turns for a shipyard, is just so damn good that it's a thing that I have to do. Now, for example, a city like Aleppo, even with that 100% production, it's going to take nearly 30 turns to build that shipyard. So this is the perfect candidate of where I've maybe purchased it, because this will literally triple the production in this city. Now, I actually did a little bit of chopping in Aretium to kind of finish this campus a little bit quicker. So I'll be able to instantaneously build a university and library in here. So I'm 122 science. Boom. Now I'm 142 science from the use of a single grey person. And part of learning how grey people work is that's kind of just a process of trial and error, trying out different grey people. That guy was worth like 20 science per turn, and he's also going to be worth 2 science per turn per university that I build, and I plan to build a lot of universities this game. But now that I have the campus down, I could either go for the workshop, or I think the thing that I want to do in here is to maybe get the production of this city up a little bit. So I might go ahead and build like the aqueduct dam. And the other thing about building a farm triangle in this city, by the way, is because the city is building an aqueduct and a dam, it's going to have a very high population. And I do eventually want to get a commercial hub in here as well. But that very high population is going to contribute to me wanting a lot of food in here, right? The city is going to be massive in terms of population, because the aqueduct gives you housing, the dam gives you housing, the campus gives you housing. The holy site and the industrial zone don't, but these two do. So if we think about the return on investment here, if I go for the holy site and I build up a full holy site, that would be a 10% boost to culture, science, and faith. I could go for the workshop, which is probably my best bet considering I'm heading for industrialization. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the workshop because that'll give me +3 production per turn, as well as a little bit of great engineer points, which I may use this game, maybe when I'm going for my science victory. Now that we have diplomatic service, we can construct a spy. That'll something we get around to. I also want to pick up mercantilism because I can build lumber mills and rainforest, and any camps that I do have to build, for example on forest tile, will now be better. So for example, this camp here will get +1 food, +1 production, which is very nice. I have some envoys to play around with. So what I might do is I might pop out Merchant Confederation for a turn and go ahead and plug in. I want to have Visselbanken plugged in. I also want to have Machiavellianism plugged in while I'm building my spies. And I would like to have Merchant Confederation plugged in at some point. So what I might do is I might plug in Diplomatic League, just so that I can efficiently make friends with some of these new city-states, and that way I'm just getting the most out of my envoys. And then in like a couple turns, I might go ahead and like buy my way back into changing this again. I'm going to harvest in Damascus because I want to place my campus now. So that'll finish my intelligence agency, giving me a spy. And now I can get to work on my +4 adjacency campus in here. Yeah, I think the campus is worth more right now because I can use my faith to purchase buildings in there. This spy, what I want to do is I basically want to go ahead and send him on a offensive mission, and I want to look through the list of enemy cities for commercial hubs, and I want to click on them. And the reason why I want to do this is because the highest value return on investment for me in deity level games, because the AI gets an 80% production boost to its ability to generate gold, that means any of these missions that I could do, for example, gain sources, listening post, right? Gain sources is good if you're going to go to war with somebody, if you want to know what they're doing. I don't plan to go to war with Georgia. Listening post is good if you want to go to war with somebody. Gain sources is good if you want to do offensive things. I get foment unrest here. What did that do? Not much. So usually the best thing you want to do is to try to steal gold from the AI because you hurt them and you also make yourself better. And usually the best AI to target is whoever your biggest competitor is. So if I go over to Hungary, I could steal 328 gold from them every 8 turns, which is a pretty good amount. And if I ever felt like it, I could sabotage their infrastructure. I could steal tech from them and stuff like that. But usually you want to steal gold and you want to kind of shop around until you find a city with a really, really strong gold yield. And if you can't find a city with a really strong gold yield, like for example Chucuto, yes, I am allies with this guy, but that's 700 gold every 8 turns. It's a huge amount of gold. So I think it is going to be the Incas that I pop in here and steal their gold. I completely forgot to get researcher this game, so I'm going to go ahead and pick it up now. That'll give me a little bit of science per citizen in Damascus. Eventually I will move Pingala to Arretium, but for now I'm going to leave him in Damascus. It seems like the reasonable thing to do. And that'll give me a nice little bit of chunk of science again, bringing us up to 150 science. Looks like Dido was actually killed, unfortunately. Hungary has killed Dido. That could be an interesting thing if we wanted to maybe try to liberate her later on. If we went for like a navy, I could maybe send a navy along this way, come down here and liberate some of Dido's cities. It'll be good for Diplo favor. Doesn't really affect me this game because I'm not going for a culture win, and usually you only care if civs die in a culture win because that's less people to generate tourism pressure against. The only thing that bothers me is that Hungary is snowballing a little bit and they might go ahead and kill Persia, but we'll see how the game goes. I have a 1,206 gold, which means I can come in here to Aleppo, purchase the shipyard, which will basically, nearly triple the production in here, which is amazing, and that'll allow the city to grow, produce, and start to actually be a contributing member of my empire. Shipyard completed in Cairo. I think it would be okay to go for the industrial zone now. That was kind of part of our plan. It's a +5 adjacency industrial zone, which gives the city amazing production. You can see here, we're starting to achieve a roughly 4 production per population in the city, which is insane. I would say, generally speaking, again, as you advance through the eras, you want to start going from like 2 production per population to like 3. And if you're hitting 3, you're in a really good spot. And anything above 3, you're doing amazingly well. I really want to stress how good these shipyards is. How good they are, rather. In Medina, I'm getting +8 production for 10 turns of build time, which means this thing pays itself off like insanely quickly in terms of the food production. It's ridiculous how good shipyards are. What I love about Inquisitors is that a single charge from an Inquisitor will basically completely eliminate the religion of your enemy. So it's actually a really efficient way to get rid of people. Now that I've started to eliminate the religious pressure from other civs, I'm starting to look into actually re-expanding my religion now properly. So I've got a missionary in here, and I'll use him to spread to Halab, and that'll just kind of fill out the last little bit of space in here to make sure that my religion establishes in a reasonable amount of time. And this city, now that it is my religion, will provide religious pressure to keep my own civ's religion pushing back. And it also means in here, I can faith purchase the madrasa for 500 faith if I so choose. It could actually be even worth it for me to switch to Reformed Church for a few turns to get that 15% discount on purchases with faith. However, I really like Merchant Republic because it gives you the 15% production towards districts and just a really good spread of cards. I would have to give up one of my economic cards, which I'm not a huge fan of if I were to switch. Might be worth it for me to plug out serfdom right now because I pretty much have all the tiles that I want improved at this moment. And I'm not planning on building any more builders, so it might even be good for me to come in here, unlock this for 85 gold, get rid of Diplomatic League, get rid of serfdom, because I'm not building builders right now. And instead, I could plug in, for example, Vassal Banking, which will make my trade routes to my allies better. I could plug in Merchant Confederation, which would give me a ton of gold. I could also plug in Craftsman to get extra Industrial Zone adjacency. I could get extra Scripture adjacency. I think the big thing, though, I'm going to want eventually is Rationalism, but I think this is a better spread since I don't plan on building any builders for the short term. I think I'll take a cultural alliance with Eleanor. This will just make my life a little bit easier. She doesn't want it? Interesting. What kind of alliance would you like then? A religious one? Yeah, she would actually take a religious alliance. I'll take a religious alliance with her. And I want to hold on to a couple of alliance slots because I really want to be friends with Rome. So we'll have to see how he goes. I'll give him Wales again. I don't know if that like actually makes him happy, but there's a free copy of Wales for you, buddy. Araka is another example of a city where I might want to purchase my shipyard. It's 8 production, and I can get the gold to get that in about 8 turns, right? Or I could build it in 15. So instead, I'll go ahead and work on campuses and save up my gold to purchase this. Industrial zone completed in Cairo. Get to work on the workshop so that we can start working on industrialization as soon as it's ready. I don't know why the city of Ostia has all 3 of its citizens in this holy site. I'm a bit confused. Bit weirded out by that. That's not what I want you to do. I would like you to work these tiles to grow a little bit. So I'm going to say food and production as your focus, and that might like kind of force him away from doing that. It's a bit of a weird one there, but okay. Always keep an eye out on your cities because there are like little weirdnesses every now and again that causes the sort of city manager to do something strange. Okay, now that I'm established in Chikuto, they're not making nearly as much money. So I would actually rather steal from Hungary. So I'm going to go head over there and see if I can start stealing from Hungary. Because they're the ones with the most science. A bit of a waste of my spy's time, but it's not the end of the world. I do need to build another spy. I need to find time to do that. But I'm not in a huge rush to get it done. I would also like to get a golden age if I could here. I'm currently in a dark age. I believe, right? Yeah, I'm in a dark age. And if I manage to get a golden age, that would actually trigger a heroic age. I never really talked about these age things. I guess that was probably a bit of a mistake on my part. But basically, if you get, there's this thing called era score. If you get enough of it, your cities, your empire will go into a different age. If you get too little of it, you'll go into a dark age. If you get just a little bit of it, you'll go into a normal age. And if you get a lot of it, you go into a golden age. And then you get to pick these dedications. I'll talk about that maybe a bit more when we actually get into a dark age. Or a golden age, rather. Or heroic age, as it were, which is what we're heading towards now. We have the madrasa in Mecca completed. We have a couple of choices in the direction that we want to take this city. We could pick up an industrial zone right here. That would give me +1 adjacency on this campus. That would give me a really strong production line in the city, or rather, yeah, it would give me a really strong production line in the city and a really good campus. Or I could go for the holy site, which would actually be multiplicative on all of these yields in here. So I think I would go for the holy site here, because faith, I feel like, has a really good return on investment, because I can essentially turn faith into particular production that I want it to be. We can see here, I have burnt down this forest, and now that it's burnt down, it is all really highly valuable land. So I guess I may as well burn it down again. I've nothing else I'm doing with this guy. So this is a way for me to essentially convert. If I can convert 200 faith into +1 food, +1 production on 4 tiles, which seems like a pretty good return on investment. So I'll probably do that one more time with another soothsayer and just put them into there twice. It would be even better if I'd actually won that thing. Okay, I don't like this. Not a fan of the whole sending inquisitors to me. So I might go ahead and talk to Rome and be like, hey, listen, buddy, you need to stop. I might go ahead and denounce Rome so that I can declare a holy war. I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and denounce Rome. That'll give them 25 grievances against me, but it will allow me to declare a holy war later on, which is really damn good. It lets me get rid of their religion. because I'll be able to just pillage any of their religious units that come into my territory. Industrialization, as well as a +3 adjacency campus, gave us tons of era score there, so we should get our heroic age. We also just unlocked industrialization, so the productivity of our empire is now skyrocketing. We're up to 44 production, which is, again, 4 production per population, which is amazing. In here, we're up to 40 production on 7 pop. In here, we're up to like 17, so you can just see all of those mines that I built, and we actually have even found coal over here, which is amazing because it makes that industrial zone that I had kind of been tentatively thinking about even better. But now the great thing is we can get to work on things like factories and coal power plants, which I actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save talking about factories and coal power plants for the next episode. I hope you guys have learned a lot from this. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!